Hi there, my name is Ms. Harlabidis, and in this video I'll show you how to solve a linear system of two equations and two unknowns by applying the substitution method. We'll see everything through a worked example. So here it is. Solve the system that consists of the linear equations 2x plus y equals 3 and 3x minus 2y equals 1. I'll begin, let's mention here that the first step, in step 1, we begin by naming the two equations. So from now on, the top one here will be referred to as equation 1, while the other one will be equation 2. Then it's time to move in step 2. In step 2, in this step, I solve, or let's better, I go in any of these two equations and solve for any variable I want. This means that I can go to the first equation, to equation number 1, and solve for x. I can go, let's write that here as well. I can go in 1 and solve for x. I can go in 1 and solve for y. I can go in 2 and solve for x, or I can go in 2 and solve for y respectively. But as a tip, choose the one that has no coefficient in either the x or y. So as a tip here, choose to solve for the variable that doesn't have any coefficient. In our case, that would be the variable y in the first equation. So in step 2, we'll say that I go in 1 and solve for y. This means that the first equation, which was 2x plus y equals 3, will now, when solved for y, will now become y equals 3 minus 2x. This new equation will be named as 3. Then it's time to move on to the next step. That is step 3. Go in the equation you didn't use in step 2 and substitute 3. So in step 2, in my example, I did use the first one. So this means that I did not use the second one, which means that in step 3, I'll go in the second equation and substitute. This is why the method is called substitution method, and substitute the third equation. What do I mean by that? I mean that the second equation, which is the equation 3x minus 2y equals 1, I should now go in it and substitute the third. But the third states that y equals 3 minus 2x, which means that here I should substitute y by exactly that, by 3 minus 2x. By doing so, this will become 3 times x minus 2 times 3 minus 2x, and all that equals 1. What did I achieve under this substitution? Now, this new substitution is a one variable equation, which means that it can be easily solved. So I'm going to do operations. 3x minus 6 plus 4x equals 1, which means that 3x plus 4x equals 1 plus 6, which means that 7x equals 7, which means that x is equal to 1. The third step would have been go in the equation you didn't use in step 2 and substitute 3 and solve that equation. Now, in step 4, so far we managed to find the unique value of x. But remember that when we work with a system of equations, we are looking for a pair. Depending, here we're working with a system of 2 equations and 2 unknowns. Hence, we're looking for a pair of numbers, which combined both will be referred to as the solution. We found that x should be equal to 1, but we still need to find the value of y. How can we find that? Generally speaking, I can use that value of x equals 1, and I can substitute it in any of the above 3 equations. I can take x equals 1 and substitute it in equation 1. I can take x equals 1 and substitute it in equation number 2. Or it would be easier here if we go directly in the third equation. And the reason for that is that in the third equation, we have already solved for y. So if we substitute x equals 1, that's all it takes. We will directly calculate the value of y. So in step 4, we can say that take the solution you found for one of the variables, substitute it in equation 3, and find the value of the second variable as well. So this means that I should now go in the third one, which is y equals 3 minus 2x, and say that for x equals 1, I get that y is 3 minus 2 times 1, which means 3 minus 2 equals 1, and that is the value of y. Finally, in step 5, we need to properly present your solution in a pair x, y. So finally, in step 5, my solution is 1, 1. So here it is. Again, I name them. This will allow me to easily navigate among the solution, among the process of solving that, I mean. In step 2, it's totally up to me. I go in any of them, either in the first or in the second, and solve for any variable I want. As a tip, if possible, go and solve for the variable that does not have any clear number in front, that doesn't have any, or even better, if you want to express it better, go to the variable that has only number 1 as a coefficient. Once you do that, this will be called equation number 3. Now, in the next step, we need to take this equation number 3, and substitute it in the equation we didn't use in step 2. This will produce a new equation of one variable, which can be easily solved, and this solution will give us the value of one of the variables. But remember that we need a pair of such values. So Having that value, we will again substitute it in the third equation. This will produce the value of the second variable, and then both of them as a pair will be presented as the solution. Let's see, however, that in order for all of this to work, before we even start, we have to do what? Express both in standard form. Remember that standard form is the form where both x's and y's are brought on the same side, and then on the other side we have just the constant. So with that said, we can see here that 3x plus 2y equals 1 is already in a standard form, but the second one is not. So I'm going to do 4x minus y equals 11 minus 6, which means that we'll keep the first one as it is, and we'll do some quick operations in the second one. 4x minus y equals 5. Now I'm going to name these as 1 and 2. And next, I will go in any of them and solve for any variable I want. The easiest here would be to go in the second one and solve for y. So I go in 2 and solve for y. This means that 4x minus y equals 5 will now become 4x minus 5 equals y, and this will be referred to as number 3. Remember that I want to solve for y, not just for minus y. Then, in the second step, I used number 2. So now, I'll go in 1 and substitute the third one. This means that although the one was 3x plus 2y equals 1, now I'm going to substitute 3, but 3 suggests that y is 4x minus 5. So this means that instead of y, I should substitute 4x minus 5. And this will lead to 3x plus 2 times 4x minus 5 equals 1. And now I have to do operations. 8x minus 10 equals 1. So 11x equals 10 plus 1, which means that 11x equals 11, so x is 1. That's half, or that's part of my solutions. I still need to find the value of y as well. This means that I will take this for x equals 1, and I'll substitute it in 3. 3 becomes 4 times 1 minus 5 equals y, which means that negative 1 equals y. So finally, my solutions, which should be presented in x, y form, are 1 and negative 1. And that is all. I understand that it might seem tricky, it might seem hard. Trust me, it's not. It needs, however, a lot of practice. And once you do that, you'll see that the steps are not as many as you now think, and definitely not as hard as you believe. Read them carefully, do them again. Always start by doing the ones that we have already worked together, because for these ones, you already know the solutions. In case, however, you need more clarification on something, in case you have any question, feel free and please do so. Leave this question as a comment below this video. As always, thank you for your time. We'll meet again in one of the following videos. Bye-bye.